Namaskar, everyone. Thank you to Dr. Gumasta ji and the entire team, Jabalpur team, who organizes this very well. I was here 4 years ago in 2016, and what I presented was the timing of Ramayana. So I'm going to briefly summarize that because that gives the context for 3-4 different things I want to discuss. When I wrote my first book on Mahabharata, the timing of Mahabharata, or even the second book on the timing of Ramayana, I did not bother to write down what was the basis, what was the scientific basis based on which I decided this, because I thought naively that everyone knows what the scientific method is. Actually, most of the common people do know what scientific method is. But to my surprise, I found many of the researchers, many of the Mahabharata researchers, Ramayana researchers, Indic researchers actually don't understand what scientific method is. So then I had to create this framework. So what you see inside the triangle is what we call the logic of scientific method. You know, the theory, the evidence, the explanation, the inference, and then the background knowledge. Then I realized many people do understand that, but then the common sense, which we think is common, sometimes is missing. So I had to put 3 words at the side of it. One is the Vijnana Buddhi, which comes from our Shad Darshanas, and then also Tarka Shastra. Many people will do very good research, but when it comes to drawing the final inference, they will go haywire. So I had to put the Tarka Shastra at the corner, and Tantra Yukti. How do you go about finding out difficult problems and how do you solve them? So what I presented is how I figured out the timing of Mahabharata. My theory was all the astronomy observations of the Ramayana text are actual, factual, visual observations of Valmiki Ramayana times, because Valmiki is contemporary to Ramayana. Then I started reading Valmiki Ramayana. I extracted every single possible astronomy observation I could find. And to my surprise, and I'm sure to surprise of many of you, I came across close to 600 specific astronomy observations in Ramayana. Then I used the scientific method. By scientific method, I mean the triangulation of explanation, prediction, testing. And I arrived at a specific year of the Ramayana war, Ram-Ravan Yuddha. That year comes out to 12,209 BCE. Okay, so more than 14,000 years ago. Now, I'm not the only one who has attempted to find the timing of Ramayana. There are many others, at least a dozen plus. Now, why people get these different answers? Okay, many of them don't bother to read Valmiki Ramayana, or if they do, they read it selectively. Just a quick story, if you are familiar with it. This is the man that you see in the picture. He's a bit drunk, and he has lost his coin. And so he's looking for his lost coin. So a police officer comes there and says, what are you searching for? And he says, I lost my coin. So he says, well, did you lose it here? And the drunkard says, no, actually I lost it like a couple of kilometers away. So the police officer says, then why are you searching for it here? And the drunkard says, because light is very good here. Okay? Unfortunately, that is the problem for many of the Ramayana researchers, specifically working on chronology. Now, Professor Gautam mentioned, there are 2 aspects how you make the measurement. First you can have a general grouping and then get to specifics. How many of you, most of you who have done 10th grade or more, you would have seen the vernier caliper. Let's see if this looks familiar to you. Yeah? Okay. How do we measure things? Suppose I want to measure the diameter of this ring. I'll put it at the top of the vernier caliper. I'll stretch it so that I know the inner diameter, approximate one. I take the reading. Then I go to the secondary reading called the vernier reading or the finer reading. And then I do some calculation, combine the numbers, and I get the precisely accurate diameter of my ring. Now, if I make a mistake in exactly how I put this into the vernier caliper, and I don't take the approximate reading right, you can be assured it doesn't matter how fine you take the secondary reading, you are going to get an answer, and that's going to be precise and wrong. Okay? That's what happens. The evidence that you find for Ramayana can be split into two categories. The one that you see in the blue, this gives you approximate area, where to search for. So if you have lost the coin 2 kilometers away, there is no point searching for it here. That's the logic of it. And then the one that you see in the yellow, that allows you to fine tune and find the exact timing. Okay? I'm going to quickly walk you through what was that journey. The 21st century is where we are, and if we go backwards, there is some type of evidence like Saksha, which goes beyond astronomy, and that tells you the boundaries. For example, those of you who have read Valmiki Ramayana, you know that multiple times you hear the description of Yamuna meeting with Ganga. How many of you know that? Many times you'll see that description, Yamuna meeting with Ganga. Now the modern research, now good thing is that research came after 2014. Now there was some old research going back to 30 years. But a lot of research coming after 2016, 17, 18, 19 tells you that Yamuna was meeting with Saraswati. We discussed river Saraswati and its descriptions in the morning before with the dance. The Yamuna that was feeding Saraswati separated from Saraswati and started meeting Ganga sometime after 50,000 years and between 50,000 and 40,000 years. Now in Ramayana we need Yamuna meeting with Ganga. So that gives us one limit. The other limit we have is Satluj. When Bharat is coming back to Ayodhya from Kekaya, and the description of Satluj river or Shatudri or Shutudri is given as the river with a very wide channel that flows in the west direction. Now 2017 paper from IIT Kanpur and many scientists from United Kingdom showed, and this was well known, but this confirmed it, that Satluj that was coming straight down and meeting Saraswati turned westward, started flowing west in 13,000 BCE. So that gives you another limit. And now on top of this, I'm going to impose the limits that I showed you in 2016, if you remember it. There is a description of sun setting during the Hemanta Rutu on a Pushya Nakshatra. And if you understand astronomy, right now you will find in Hemanta Rutu, it sets on a Mula Nakshatra. So if you use the precession of equinoxes, that cycle of 26,000 years, it actually takes you back to these limits. Okay? So it's going to give you a limit of sometime between 11,800 BC to 16,000. Sharad season during Chaitra. When we celebrate Ram Navami in Chaitra, these days it is what? The second part of Vasanta Rutu. But if you read the Valmiki Ramayana descriptions at the time of Rama's birth and also at the time of Rama's scheduled coronation when he was sent to Vanvas, you will find the descriptions tell you that it was the season of not Vasanta Rutu but Sharad Rutu. So again you use the precision of equinoxes, it's going to take you to a certain limit. You can, another wonderful one which is Lakshman is talking about the pole star of Ramayana times. Right now we just call it Dhruvatara, but there is a specific name to it. It's Polaris right now. Now Lakshmana is saying Brahmarashir Vishuddhasya Shuddhasya Paramarshaya Archishmantah Prakashante Dhruvam Sarve Pradakshinam. Brahmarashi is the pole star and all the Saptarshis are going around that pole star Brahmarashi, which is Vega. And what was the time of it? The last time it was a pole star was 12,000 BC plus minus 2,000 years. Okay? So, and then I was stuck for almost a year, this is before 2014. To my luck, a comet came to my rescue, and that is again observed by Lakshman. And I said, you know what, Lakshman, as far as the history goes, we know Lakshman is the first one who noticed it, so I called it a comet Lakshman, okay, in his name. And that basically gave me that year of 12,209, or approximately more than 14,000 years ago. Now quickly, okay, so that's history, we have the context. Now people ask, maybe not here, but people ask, Indians in general ask, and others also ask. That's great, you have a history, that much old, fine. Why bother? Why bother to read it? This is not a question to anyone here, but I have to answer those questions. So I say, you know what, there must be some reason why it is still with us. Like old is gold, there must be some reason. But what we also find is a source for newer and deeper insights, because it's a very old record. There are not many old records with such details. So it can tell us about civilization, philosophy, dharma, science, medicine, technology, whatnot. I'm going to give you a few highlights of it. How many of you know that the name Sita occurs in Rigveda? Just raise your hand. Okay. For others, actually the name does occur in Rigveda. And it occurs in a very much the context in which we know Sita. Like how Sita was found during the agriculture, like, while plowing of the field. And so interestingly, just to give a quick tidbit, when somebody asks Mahatma Gandhiji, like when you are saying Ram, which Ram you are referring to? Is it the Dasharath Ram, like the son of Dashrath, or somebody else? And humorously, Gandhiji responded, he's saying, I'm thinking of that Ram, after which Dasharatha named his son Ram. Okay? And you can actually see this here. This comes from the 4th mandal of Rigveda, which I have dated to more than 22,000 years ago. So actually this name, more than likely, is long before Ramayana. And that context was used, and that is why the name Sita was given to the lady in that particular context, which is Rama's wife. Okay? And you can actually see the verses. I'll skip through that. By the way, astronomically, this can also take you back to close to 26,000, 28,000 years. Okay, Shuna 0, the timing of summer solstice, but I'm going to skip that. Now, people ask, if we are talking of agriculture those many years old, where is the evidence of agriculture? In the science peak, people ask that. And many of you might have heard, we only have evidence for agriculture 5,000, 8,000 years ago and so on. There are actually papers, peer-reviewed papers, going back to 43,000 BC. This is paper from Sri Lanka, the area of Sri Lanka, where there is evidence of agriculture going back to 45,000 BC or 43,000 BC, 45,000 years ago. Or there is evidence of agriculture in Sri Lanka going back to 18,000 years. Okay, not many people know this, but these are papers and they are not very recent papers. Okay. Now, once the agriculture comes, there is something else. There is also the navigation, there is also the commerce. And when you have a commerce, those days, it is mostly by boats. How many of you know that India was a leader when it came to building boats and boat technology? I did not know that. And one day, one of my engineer colleague back in USA, he said, oh, wow, I didn't know this. I said, what are you talking? And he said, just go to Wikipedia and read it. And I read and says, okay, I didn't know this. Until 17th, 18th century, the best boats, the most excellent boats were built in India. Okay? And to the extent the British wanted to, just like the textile and everything else, they wanted to take advantage of this, and they made this basically a treaty with the workers in India who were expert in building boats. So we are talking about the agriculture, we are talking about the navigation and commerce. And if you have to do that, you also need astronomy. I'm going to run quickly fast through this. But you will find, if you just go away from Ramayana for a minute and go to Surya Siddhanta, you find the evidence of Surya Siddhanta being as old as like 14,000, 17,000 years old and older. We have only tracked like 14,000 and 17,000 years. Quickly, some fun, something that, some of the things have changed and some of the things have not changed. Now, Yaskacharya says about our Sanatana Vedic Dharma, it is Sanatano Nitya Nutana. Okay? Sanatana religion is that one, Sanatana Dharma. It is willing to and it continues to change, to adjust to new time, place and circumstances. But some change don't change that fast. Okay? We'll look at some of those here. For example, this is a test for all of you. Who said to who? If you remember, what is that? Question, you have that in a paper. Reference to context or something like this. Who said to who and why in what context. Okay. Here, this is from Valmiki Ramayana. It says, O Kaikeyi, I bow to you with folded palms. I touch your feet too. Can you guess who said to who? Dashrath said to Kaikeyi. Now, this was more than 14,000 years ago. Does that happen in our household? Okay, I will not put you in a troubling spot. I won't ask you that question. Okay, but you may find some version of it happens in every household. People may or may not admit, but that happens. How about this one? King Dashrath is invincible like Indra. By causing grief to him through your action, I feel you are killing your husband inch by inch. I think you are ultimately destroying your own race. Anyone? What is it? No, I'll give a close. It is by Sumantra, Dashratha's minister to Kaikeyi. The point I want to make it is a minister could say that to the queen. That is the point I want to make. A minister could say this to a queen and just be okay. This one. In your own dynasty, King Sagara prevented his well-known eldest son Asamanj. Rama also should depart in the same manner. You can take a guess. Who is this? Kaikai. Okay, Kaikai is saying, there is a tradition. For whatever reason, you can ask your son as a prince to go away. And so this is from that. Now, Kaikai is saying it. Now look, I will just put all together. Watching it, all the enraged citizens, now Kaikai continues, by the way, said to the king, "O enhancer of the prosperity of the kingdom, either you choose Asamanj or us." Like we talk about the Ganatantra in the morning, Now the people of the kingdom are discussing, this is the time of Sagara, telling either Asamanj goes, your son goes, or we go. You have to choose. And actually Sagara, deciding, looking at the behavior of Asamanj, decided to banish him from the kingdom. If you read, Asamanj used to take the kids of the kingdom and throw them into Shri. Okay? So he was punished. Okay, quickly, this is a good one. Again, the point is not so much who said to who. I'll give the answer. It is said by sage Vasishtha. Okay, sage Vasishtha. But listen to the language. We talk about the woman empowerment. He says, "You are devoid of good conduct, O Kaikai. Divine Sita need not go to the forest. Remaining here, she should occupy the royal throne of Ram. For every householder, his wife is his Atma. Since Sita is the Atma of Rama, she can rule this earth." Now, the place I live, United States of America, we are still struggling to have our first woman president. Okay? Now, we are going back 14,000 years, and we are very casual. We are listening to a casual conversation of somebody saying, well, if Sita doesn't have to, Sita chose to go to forest, that's a different story. But she can occupy the kingdom, occupy the throne and rule the kingdom. Quickly, I will encourage all of you, if you have not seen it, to go and watch that exhibition. Okay, it's a beautiful exhibition. I told Dr. Gumastaji I spent first day half an hour, the second day I spent 2 hours, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to show you one picture from that. Now quickly, factual versus embellished. We started with Valmiki Ramayana, but there are many Ramayanas, and the stories has shifted. Nothing wrong with it. But sometimes what happens is, it confuses us with the message. Like we don't understand why somebody did something. Okay? So, Ahalya and Gautama Indra story, if you have gone through the exhibition, you already know this, but something interesting. So, embellished story that we hear, would you agree this is what you have heard? Of course, Tulsi Ramayana, you will see that, Ram enters the ashram, he touches the stone, and the stone turns to Ahalya. Yes? Most of you have heard this. Let's see what Valmiki Ramayana has to say. Now, these are the pictures that you will see. Ahalya touching the feet of Rama, and, turning from stone into a lady. Okay? Even the statues and all that, made into many caves are like that. If you look at the factual one, I will encourage all of you, with the parents or otherwise, on a YouTube channel, 21 notes is the channel, 21 and then notes. Actually, Dr. Gumastaji and myself, we have invited this wonderful individual, Yashodip Devdar. For some reason, he couldn't come for his personal emergency. But please go and watch this. It's an amazing work. Lot of effort has gone into it. You can see, and the episodes are very small, like 7 to 8 minutes. The whole Balkanda is done. Now he's working on Ayodhya Kand. Quickly, I want to show some pictures from it, just to make a story. So once the Vishwamitra came there, at the ashram with Ram and Lakshman, he shows the ashram and he starts telling the story that Gautam and Ahalya were staying in the ashram, and one day Indra came to their ashram disguised as an ascetic. I think so far so good. We have heard this. But what people may not tell you, or at least you will not hear unless you read Valmiki Ramayana, is this: Muni Vesham Sasraksham Vidnyaya Raghunandana Matim Chakara Durmedha Devaraja Kutuhalat. When I was young, I used to wonder, if Ahalya did not recognize him, then why did Gautam cursed her? That didn't make sense to me. Okay? Thank you. I'll take like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe. Okay? The secret is here. Actually, Ahalya recognized that is Indra, but Devaraja Kutuhalat, out of a curiosity for the Devendra, she agreed with his request. And that is why you see, then Gautama came, you know the story, he curses Indra also, and then he also tells Ahalya that she has to stay in isolation and purify herself. Just watch the language, how beautiful the language is. Vata bhaksha nirahara tapyanti bhasmashaini. She stayed there alone, did tapasya, purified herself. And watch also the language, now they came here. Valmiki describes her as a dushta charini in the sense of someone who behaved incorrectly. But in almost the same verse, he calls her Deva Rupini. Okay? So very objective way of describing each act or each person. Okay? Not like lumping everything into one. And then she was very powerful at that point when they came. And now this is what not many people know. Raghavo tu tada tasya pado jugruhu turmada. Ram and Lakshman respectfully touched her feet. Okay? The problem, I mean, these are the verses from Valmiki Ramayana. I was looking for a picture. I gave a talk in Seattle on the west coast of America, and I was looking for a picture where I can find a picture where Ram and Lakshman touching her feet, and I could not find it. So I asked one of my good friend, Deepali Patwatkar in Pune, to draw one. So the picture that you see is drawn by her. And now, if you go to the exhibition, actually you will see another one. I don't know if you can see it, but there is that picture, at the exhibition, where Ram and Lakshman are again touching the feet of Ahalya. Okay. Quickly, last one, Kumbhakarna. When you hear of Kumbhakarna, what do you think? A very exaggerated story? Like, who sleeps for 6 months, right? Agree? Who sleeps for 6 months? And who eats so much food? Okay? I thought the same thing. Now, I was working a few years ago on a specific product, and that was related to sleep. And so, therefore, I was reading everything about the sleep. And while doing that, I came across an interesting story of a 14-year-old boy. And when I was reading that, I said, this is like, I have read it somewhere. It sounds very similar to Kumbhakarna, okay? My time is off, so I'm going to walk you fast through this. But those who are interested actually can go to Wikipedia, type Nilesh and Kumbhakarna or something. I don't sleep that long, guys, by the way, okay? But you type it and you'll get the article, you'll get some other talks also. What I found is there is a specific medical situation or medical condition called Klein-Levin syndrome. Okay, this is after two medical men, who basically end up, having that name into the disease. Everyone knows sleeping for a long time. Everyone knows Kumbhakarna eating a lot, so that's easy. Okay, that's the definition of Klein-Levin syndrome. But something very interesting, not many people know about the hypersexuality of these patients. And if you read Valmiki Ramayana, I also did not know that. I said, can I find these descriptions in Valmiki Ramayana? And actually you do. Some of you may know this, that when he was young, he used to chase the wives of other men, other sages. You can see those descriptions. You also see Ravana describing Kumbhakarna as Kamo Pahata Chetana, or someone who is busy in Gramya Sukhe. Okay, these are very subtle descriptions. And irritability, I'll just skip. Episode duration. Now, I had this research, I did not publish it for a long time, because the longest I could find a patient with Klein-Levin syndrome was 3 months, like sleeping for 3 months. And Kumbhakarna is what, 6 months? So I said, if I wait enough, I might get a case study, And surely I did. I waited for until 2015, and then I found a case study with Klein-Levin syndrome, where this person was sleeping for up to a year. And a variable sleep pattern. I'll tell you something very interesting. We know Kumbhakarna sleeping for only 6 months. But if you read Valmiki Ramayana, it's not just 6 months. Ravana is describing Kumbhakarna's condition and says that sometime he sleeps for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. Please go and check this in Valmiki Ramayana. And actually now you find the Klein-Levin syndrome patients actually have a variable duration like that, okay, and going up to 12 months. I'll skip through that, a couple points. One is, nobody to this day actually knows what causes Klein-Levin syndrome. And so, when that happens, we have multiple theories. Just like quantum mechanics is very successful, but we don't know the true explanation. So there are 14 different theories for quantum mechanics. Similarly, right in the Valmiki Ramayana itself, I will not go into the details, but there are 3 specific different theories for Kumbhakarna's condition. And quickly the last one, when it comes to the patient management, the way Kumbhakarna's condition was managed in Valmiki Ramayana, and I'll skip the descriptions, is exactly the way today the Klein-Levin patient is managed with the condition. No difference. No difference. In fact, his house was made, his place was made under the ground so that the light doesn't enter, so that he's not irritable. A perfumed air was circulated. Now, when I say that, people say, where is the compressor? Okay, now don't ask me where is the compressor. Somehow they found a way to circulate this. So it's very, very beautiful, essentially a 100% match with what Kumbhakarna is and what Klein-Levin syndrome is. Thank you.
Any question from Dr. Oak, from the audience?
Okay, please wait for the microphone. Okay, good.
Script means present about till the time of Indus Valley civilization, and even we are not able to decipher that script. So, in the absence of any script, how does we saved all this wisdom?
Okay, quickly, everyone understood the question. So this is going back 7,000, 14,000. He's saying there was no script. So how did this whole thing was documented and remembered? Fair? Okay. So quickly, two points. One is, it's not correct that there was no script. Okay, so one is, if you look at the Sindhu Saraswati script, there are many attempts, more than 100, to decipher it. We don't have a final word, but one of the person who worked with me, her name Sue Sullivan, you can go and type Indus script dictionary and see some of her work. It's not a final word, but it's better than any other research effort to decipher the Indus script. The second point, we shouldn't confuse absence of evidence with evidence of absence. Okay?
So, according to that dictionary, is that Harappan script is Sanskrit?
Okay. So, question is, what do we find? These are initial findings, and there are, let's say, 400 different signs, different signature signs. She has deciphered, to the best of her ability, 25% of them, so like 100 of them. Based on that initial work, it appears, that is her research, it appears that the language appears to be Sanskrit, and within that you can find tatsam, tadbhav, and apabhramsha. So like some of the words, where R is missing, like we saw the Thailand, or where the R, Rama becomes Lam, and something like this, you will find those. So tatsam, tadbhav, apabhramsha. And also you will find some words that are valid in non-Sanskrit but Indian languages. Okay? Thank you.